If I had a dollar or a nickel, hell, a third of a Bitcoin for every gamer that has messaged or spoken to me at some point telling me they want to be a professional esports player, I'd be making pretty huge bank. What could be better, right? You play a game you love all day, you compete, you win a giant chunk of prize money, and maybe you land a few brand deals or sponsorships along the way. It sounds like the dream job. It's sort of funny though, because when we're small kids, we announce we want to be famous footballers or singers or actresses, and we get older and are slowly educated by society that those are actually pretty tough jobs. They're really difficult industries to crack, and that only a select few make it. Talent goes so far, but sometimes a little bit of luck and a huge amount of hard work won't even get you in the door. While those warnings around choosing a career in professional sports are there from the get go, really, why are they not for esports? Is it because games are so easily accessible and athlete ability maybe doesn't play a role, or some people don't think it plays a role? Why does professional esports player seem so much more accessible than, say, full-time professional football player? I don't want to take a giant dump on anyone's dreams, but I do think it's time to talk frankly about what it actually takes to be the best at your chosen video game and to win some money playing it. For this episode of Tech Talks, I'm hoping to give you a really close look at what being a professional esports player actually looks like. I have two gents to help me tell this story, and I think their unique perspectives are definitely worth the listen. Mohamed KingCJ Diop is currently one of the best professional FIFA players in North America. His take is interesting because he is originally from South Africa and has made the jump from a developing esports region to a dominating one. Alongside him is Julio Beast Bianchi, the first African and South African player to qualify for the FIFA E-World Cup. Both of these players are considered some of the best FIFA athletes in the world.
My name is Mohamed Diop. I am 21 years old. I am currently in the US studying. I left South Africa 2 years ago to pursue my studies here in the US. And I am a professional gamer for this club right here, DC United, a club who plays in the Major League Soccer, the MLS. And I play for the competitive division.
Yeah, good day everyone. My name is Julio Bianchi, aka the Beast. I'm 23 years old, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm a professional FIFA player for Goliath Gaming. Been their captain and their first FIFA player for about 3 years now. Yeah, just embarking on a really exciting journey to prove myself to the world.
I had a chance to chat to both of these players for a corporate panel we were all on. Some of their insights come from that panel, and you'll hear them as we go, while other insights were shared with me during a Discord call that I had with both KingCJ and Beast. I'm hoping that aspiring esports players will walk away with a far clearer understanding of the industry they're looking to enter after listening to this episode. Yes, some gamers do compete for money in something called esports. That's actually a thing now. So before we jump into this, let's better define what a professional esports player actually is.
For me, it's basically competing against the best players in the world, first of all, at the highest level, consistently and constantly. And also, if you make a living out of it, we compete against the best players domestically and internationally, while also making a living out of it. So we also have a potential future coming from it. So I think that's what a professional esports player, or in my case, a professional FIFA player, should be classified as.
I enjoy playing games, but the bug to compete and compare myself to other players has never really bitten, if I'm honest. I love watching esports and commentating on esports, sure, but I'm always curious as to what it is that drives someone to go from gamer to competitor.
I think it was when I was in South Africa. It was after that first major competition we had. It was the first big competition, the VS Gaming. After that competition, um, and just seeing my general level and how I was faring against other top professionals, I told myself, yeah, this is something I can pursue. This is something I can do good at. This is something I'm very good at. So that's when I started to think, okay, let me give this a shot. Let's try and make it through FIFA.
For me, it was down to two days or two moments. Yeah, firstly, I just saw this video of FIFA releasing this video on August Rosenmeyer, and going into Denmark, Copenhagen, filming him, giving him all this, this attention, this media attention, him attending the Ballon d'Or with Cristiano Ronaldo and all these amazing stars that I've that I've looked up to growing up loving football. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I was really fascinated by it. And I thought, you know what, I genuinely believe I can get there. I can, if I give everything I have, if I, put everything into it, I would love to get to that stage someday, whereas I can attend the Ballon d'Or ceremony with all these stars, my heroes, my role models, and hopefully one day lifting that world championship. And that really motivated me to put everything I have into the game. I sacrificed my football career to pursue a career in esports. So I was really motivated, and I went at it with full speed, everything in me. And the second moment was when a friend of mine picked me up on a Sunday and said there's a local tournament in Cape Town. It's for 1,000 rand. It was one of my first ever tournaments, and I had nothing to do that day, and I went along with him. I managed to win the tournament. There was actually I think two pro players there from Cape Town as well, which I didn't know at that time, as I didn't know many people in the local esports scene. And after winning that tournament, I got a lot of confidence, and belief in myself that I can maybe just take this to the next level. I started entering tournaments online, and I think from there on, I got scouted by Goliath Gaming. I went on to meet August Rosenmeyer and ended up beating him, which to me is very special. I will always hold it dearly. And that just shows you anything is possible. If you have a dream, if you work hard towards that, never give up. Believe in yourself, always stay determined and dedicated. I think the sky is the limit, and you're your only worst enemy.
Rad. So the bug bites, and off you go, right? You jump right on in and start competing. Only it really isn't nearly that easy. Sure, you might beat your friends on the regular and dominate in ranked games, but taking the next step to serious competitor isn't something that happens overnight, as Beast explains.
It takes years, Sam, to be honest. I've been playing this game for as long as I can remember, since the age of 6. I'm just in love with football. It fascinates me to look at the best coaches in real football and the way they examine games. It fascinates me, it excites me. And my whole goal has been to show the world what style of football I can play. So I've studied the game of FIFA for as long as I can remember. It's not just a pass, shoot, goal. It's more than that. There's so many tactics and instructions that go into a game of football, especially if you're competing against the best players in the world. It's about outthinking one another. It's who wants it more on the day and who's that 2, 3 steps ahead. So it takes hours and hours, days, months, years of practice and studying of the game and studying the game of football to perfect it, like Diop said earlier on, to try and perfect your craft. And for me, it's always, besides even just winning, I've always played the game to enjoy the game and to play my style that I have in my head. I have a certain style of football that I'm trying to perfect in my head that I'm enjoying, that I like to see. So I'm trying to put that out there for the world to see and to try and fall in love with my style of football. And at the same time, try and compete and trying to beat the best players in the world.
You've got a love for the game, possibly a touch of talent, and you're grafting. How do you take the next step? For many esports players, that next step came when they were picked up by a team or organization. This is usually where it gets a little bit confusing. You can get right to the top all on your own, but for most players, the end goal is to be signed to what is known as a multi-gaming organization or professional team, because these organizations and teams can offer up support that you might not get anywhere else. For KingCJ, he chose to align himself with a football club, which might sound really odd, a real-life football club, esports player. Why are they signing an esports player?
Yes, like every team in the Major League Soccer, the MLS has his own FIFA player that represents that team in the esports league. So it's become a thing across many countries around the world. I'm sure a lot of people watch football. The Premier League, for example, have their own division, like like the one in the US, called the E-Premier League. So it's something that is becoming a lot more frequent in every country. The top leagues are investing in esports, and this means that the future is bright and the sky's the limit.
That's pretty cool, right? And obviously it is unique to FIFA, but some of these professional sports clubs have spread their hands into other titles as well. But how do you get the likes of a Manchester United to sign you up? Should you just be sliding on into their DMs, or are you sending them a well-worded email with a PDF proposal? According to KingCJ, it's actually your skills in game that will do the talking for you.
It all comes down first to the how are they going to meet you? How do they find you? And that's a long process of us as players to put ourselves out there and make sure that clubs like these see us on a constant and regular basis by posting our results, posting up updates on how we're doing on the game, stuff like that. And in my case, I moved to the US 2 years ago, right after I finished my final exam. In South Africa, they call it the metric. Once I finished that, I moved to the US to pursue and further my studies. And just like that, I saw DC United were advertising for a tournament to see who could become their potential next player. And I hopped on the chat the first instinct. I saw it, and the rest is history, I suppose.
A real life football club looks after athletes all the time, and that sort of care is relatively similar to what an esports athlete might need. Some esports players, though, choose to align themselves with what is known as an MGO, or multi-gaming organization, which usually houses a host of teams and players in various titles. Think of it like the Department of Sports, but for a select team of players that share similar values while competing across different games. Everyone and their mom claims to run an MGO these days, but ideally you want a real deal organization that can actually give you the support you need to flourish, as Julio found out when he joined South African MGO, Goliath Gaming.
If I speak from my own experience, signing for Goliath Gaming was a dream come true for me. Firstly, when I started playing and competing just amongst my friends, one of my biggest dreams were to just be in a team, to be in a family. I consider Goliath Gaming a family. They've done so much for me and my family, not just for me as an individual, but for my family as well. It's something that I feel that I could never repay them. So they've given me infinite support. I can't count the amount of times they've backed me and supported me, and they've given me the belief, almost I can say, to achieve things I never thought were possible. So just having that backing and that support and financial backing as well for everyone out there that don't know about it, but they obviously pay for my flights to go to Johannesburg, to come down to the headquarters to meet with them, and to just meet up with all the players, the photo shoots annually, to compete in tournaments. They have that financial support, with all the players, and having that is important, especially for someone that might not have the financial capabilities. So just being part of an organization like that, like Goliath Gaming, for me, it basically pushed me to basically achieve my goals sooner and quicker. And yeah, it's really special to be a part of something like that.
I'm going to drop in here really quickly and actually take you away from our esports player discussion for a moment. If you're an avid gamer, especially when you're setting up on a PC, you'll know that a gaming mouse is sort of important. You want to make sure it's quick and responsive so you never miss a quick flick. Logitech G's new generation gaming mice all have the brand's Hero sensor, which can help you hit your highest level of performance in-game. The sensor does this by utilizing a smart power management system which continuously adjusts frame rate based on the movements of the mouse. Fancy, right? Be sure to check out logitechg.com to shop the latest range. Let's recap quickly. You're playing in tournaments and have signed with an organization that is paying to fly you to events, giving you a cool branded t-shirt, arranging photo shoots, and generally it all feels, quite snazzy. But here's the question that I think everyone needs to ask. Can you make money from playing competitively?
I think there's so many ways you can generate money from playing FIFA. There's obviously the streaming side. There's also the personal sponsorship side. You can get so many sponsors through streaming and just building your own personal brand. I think, through social media and through marketing and through just meeting so many amazing people in the career of esports. So yeah, and obviously generally there's the way of competing, playing in domestic and international tournaments with huge prize pools. Me and Diop qualified for the World Cup, and I think if we had to convert it into rands, it's about 3 million rand. So it's a life-changing amount of money. And there's so many other games out there, Fortnite, Call of Duty, all of these games with huge prize pools. So it's all about you just giving everything you have, putting everything into it to try and be the best you can be.
Julio mentions prize money and brand deals here, which is primarily where you're making cash if you're an esports player. Organizations and clubs will also pay a monthly salary to players they deem good enough to represent their brands in competitions, which is another income stream for aspiring players. So there's definitely cash to be made. But I do think we've glamorized how tough it really is to crack it as a full-time esports player. Much like a professional sports person, there is such a small percentage of gamers who can claim to earn their income solely from competing and being one of the best at their chosen title. As KingCJ actually highlights when he explains what a typical day in his life looks like. Now remember, this is one of the top FIFA players in the world.
It's a pretty tough question because I consider myself more of a full-time student than a professional athlete after that. But I wake up like everyone in the day. I go to school, I finish school, I come back home, I do my homework, and once I'm done with that, the little time I have, I give it to FIFA. I put in time and time into FIFA in order to perfect my craft. I know a few professional players this side in the US. They do it full time, as in they wake up in the morning, they're on the game from 8 to 5 in order to achieve what they want to achieve in the season. That's, of course, it's a privilege for them. They're in a financial situation where they can commit to gaming, which is a possibility given the backing and their status. But not everyone is in that situation, so we have to balance both studies and gaming, like I'm doing myself.
I really like that KingCJ specifically focused on his studies and brought that out, pointing out the importance, because it is something that I personally think is not nearly highlighted enough. As someone working in esports full-time and earning her income solely from this industry, I've seen a very scary narrative take form over the past few years in regions with thriving esports ecosystems, but also in developing regions where the money and the job opportunities is close to none. The narrative is that if you want to crack the big time, you need to go all in. I have watched 40-year-old men tell young kids, 16, 17-year-old kids, that they need to take a gap after school to just play games all day to try and make it. I have watched them suggest that players miss their final exams to compete in tournaments. I've watched these same men flash around the giant prize pool amounts from tournaments like the International as incentives to focus solely on trying to be a professional player. And I've also heard them claim an education is just a piece of paper. On the other side, I've seen these snake oil salesmen slither around and try to sell esports degrees and diplomas to these 17-year-old players, telling them to spend huge amounts of money and go into student debt to study esports if they want to crack the big time as a professional player or land a job in the industry. It really boggles my mind because I can assure you an esports degree or diploma will not guarantee you a job. And if you don't believe me, listen to episode 3 of season 2 of this podcast series where we chat to one of the world's best esports producers and he breaks down how he landed the jobs he did. More importantly though, much like a degree in football won't make you the next Cristiano Ronaldo, a diploma or degree is not going to help you become the best professional player of the game of your choosing. Here's the thing, I can shout as much as I want about the dangers that some of these old men pose to young gamers, but I realize that sometimes it can't come from me. So I asked 2 of the best FIFA players in the world if they would suggest going all in.
To me, education is the most powerful thing. Actually, where I grew up, I've seen people go in and out of prison. That's just pure honesty. I've seen people drop out of school and just basically throw their lives away. Education is the most powerful thing. And just good example, just like professional footballers. I have many friends who are professional footballers who don't have education, who didn't finish grade 12, who's not studying. And a football career is short. An esports career might be even shorter as well. So if you have education, it's something that no one can take away from you. I'm in my 4th year of studying financial accounting and tax. And I'm ending this year and I'll have my degree if esports doesn't work out for me the next 2-3 years, and I feel like I've had enough, it's no problem. I can always go back into accounting. So it's always great to have 2-3 extra options, to have a plan B, C, and D, if you like. So yeah, I would never encourage anyone to just go straight into esports. I mean, if you have that belief in yourself, who's going to stop you? Yes, but if it doesn't work out, life is funny. Anything can happen. Always need to have a plan B, and there's no better way to get it than to finish grade 12 and to go and study further.
I personally would not recommend anyone to go into FIFA esports full time. At this current state, I'm going to be brutally honest right now. I think the FIFA esports ecosystem does not provide you that security in order for you to drop everything that's going for you, whether that be school, whether that be your job, whether that be university studies. The ecosystem doesn't provide you that opportunity to drop everything and focus it all on FIFA. I was having this conversation a few days ago with a few of my friends this side, and we were telling each other that to be able to live off FIFA, you need to be one of the best players in the world. And that's only in FIFA. In FIFA, if you're top five in the world, that's where you can say, okay, I am making considerably enough to be a full-time pro and only a full-time pro. And that's not even counting prize money. It's all about the financial stability you get from these brands, deals, sponsorships, and everything. Prize pool comes in after. The way I grew up as well, my parents have been the number one advocate of school first, and nothing else. So in my mindset, I'm always school first, even if I have to sacrifice, for example, the start of a tournament, losing the first round to go into the loser bracket in order to finish my exam. I will do that. I prioritize firstly schooling. That's what brought me here, and that's why I'm here till this day, and that's what gives me the confidence to continue and to keep pushing. Because if I was, in my opinion, if I was to do FIFA full time, I don't think I would be very confident in my own abilities, because I'd have this pressure of me saying, if I do not do well here, like, what is my backup? I cannot do anything else. I am not experienced enough. I do not have the requirements to do anything else but this. It creates a pressure in you, which just isn't something I personally could live with.
Yeah, I think people also need to realize that there's so many things that go into becoming, one of the best in whatever it is that you may do. And
Mhm.
there's, like Diop mentioned, there's so much pressure that comes with this competing at the highest level constantly. And there's always people that want to be better than you, that want to beat you. So you need to constantly stay at the top of your game. And there's so many things that go into this, you know. You need to believe in yourself so much, and you need to be mechanically gifted. You
Mhm.
can be you can believe in yourself more than anything, but if you don't have the mechanical skills to go along with that belief and determination and dedication, I don't think you'll make it. And FIFA is a funny game because it changes every year. You can be the best in the world today. Next year, you might not even make top 100 in the world. It's funny how it works out. So there's so many things to take into consideration when approaching a career in esports, a career in FIFA, or any title for that matter. So be very careful, be very wise about it. And I think just to be safe, always have a plan B and plan C.
Definitely. I can only speak about FIFA. That's the only esports I
Yeah.
know and follow. If I don't know about CS:GO, I don't know about League of Legends. Maybe the security is much better. There's more sponsorship involved, deals involved. But as a FIFA player, I know for a fact you can go from Cloud9 ecstasy to rock bottom after 1 year because of how the game changes. And
Yeah.
it takes that consistency and drive to match that level.
One of the most interesting discussions around professional esports players is the vast disparity between competitors in established territories where competitions offer up prize pools and opportunities that can finance a player's living expenses versus those in developing regions who face a multitude of challenges before even getting to that point. Both KingCJ and Beast started their competitive careers in South Africa. While CJ now resides and competes in and for the USA, Beast has remained in Africa and what would be considered a developing region, which means he's well versed in the specific challenges players like him face.
Yeah, it's difficult being from South Africa, competing against continents like Europe and South North America and Asia, where it's so advanced. Feels almost as if we are 10 steps behind. I mean, in terms of infrastructure as well as the financing department. In terms of struggles, where I'm from a very rough neighborhood in Cape Town, gang infested. I see these things on a daily, and I don't have the best internet. Ever since I started competing, I've always said this, everyone knows it. I've never had fiber, the best internet, higher speed internet. So it's been very difficult for me mentally as well. Many days, many nights I felt like giving up, where I just it was just difficult to accept and to comprehend. I knew I had the ability and the talent, but sometimes there's other things outside of my control that would almost slow me down. So again, signing for Goliath Gaming gave me that opportunity to travel to Johannesburg, to go and compete under much better conditions than what I'm accustomed to. So that just highlights the importance of my team against which I'm very grateful for. And it just motivated me more than ever, I think, to become a professional esports player, to become one of the best in the country, to give myself an opportunity to compete. So I'm very determined, and it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to just say I quit and I can do something else. But I was more determined than ever, more hungrier than ever to come out on top and to challenge myself. Because once I set my mind to something, I feel like my own worst enemy, that's myself. So I've always been competing against myself more than anyone else. So being able to be where I am today, I say this with great humility and great pride that I'm very proud of myself for coming this far, and I've still got a long way to go.
The reason I wanted KingCJ to feature in this episode is because of the unique situation he finds himself in. He dominated competitive FIFA in South Africa, made the move to the USA, and continued to dominate there. He's experienced both a developing esports country and had the opportunity to now compete in one of the most established regions in the world. He's in a great position to really understand the differences between each circumstance and how it could potentially affect a competitive player.
Back home in South Africa, we're kind of isolated from the world. So South Africa it's this beautiful country with a lot of talent from any game. It could be FIFA, Counter-Strike, League of Legends. But the big issue with us is that we are separated from the entire world. We're very far from the entire world. And in order for us to compete in good conditions, it's very difficult, regardless of the internet or anything. It's more of a location standpoint, which means that we professional gamers need to branch out. I mean, by that I mean fly out to different countries just in order to be on the same playing field as our opponents. So it's a situation that we've been fighting since the very beginning, and I had to relocate just so I could compete on a fair play. And like Julio said, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. I've been there, I've played it, and I can tell you it's a very, very different. Playing on good connection, in a good infrastructure, playing on the best internet, it makes a difference. It really does.
So what really is the answer for someone wanting to try and make it as a competitive esports player? Does it mean if you live in a place like South Africa or another developing region that you need to relocate to Europe or the US? Surely this isolates the next world champions if they don't have the necessary finances available to do something like a relocation. I mean, we spoke about how difficult it is to finance yourself as a professional player. I was really curious as to how players at the top of their game would actually answer this question, so I posed it to them. Do you need to make sure you're physically living in one of the potential esports hubs?
I don't want to be that type of person to tell people what to do, but there's certain players, I even tell them every day, there's players in South Africa that I really believe if they want to push on and achieve more, that need to move and relocate from South Africa to keep pushing and achieve their dreams. There's players who have a absurd level. When I say absurd level, they're very, very good at this game. And that just the fact that they live in Africa slash more specifically South Africa is slowing them down to achieve what they're destined to achieve, greatness. I keep telling those people every single day, every time I have this conversation with them, I tell them the same thing. You need to relocate because I've been competing alongside the Julios, the Kalens, the Tabos for the last 5 years. I've been competing against them in South Africa, and we've been neck and neck the whole time. And I believe that if they were to relocate into another country, given better opportunities, they absolutely smash it. Have no doubt. I have no doubt.
I think it's possible. It's definitely possible to still make it from where we are, in these smaller developing regions, like you've mentioned. It's possible. I think anything is possible, but it's much more difficult, I think, like you have mentioned as well. We've been competing for years, and on any given day, anyone can win. So it just shows you the level we've had was more or less similar. And Diop proving going to America, competing against some of the best players I've seen in the FIFA scene as well, who have been at the top level for years. And being the best in America for him now was a great achievement. It gave me goosebumps for his part. Just showcasing that, we have talent here, anything is possible. If given the opportunity, we can prevail, we can proceed and progress on any given stage. So hopefully, I also don't want to be that person to say to someone, you know what, leave your environment that you're comfortable in, that you're happy with, that you accustomed to, that you're used to go somewhere else and to pursue new opportunities. But I mean, if you look at it, I think overseas is where the best opportunities are, and that's just facts. And I've always said I always prefer competing in better conditions against better players. That's just how I am. I want to compete against the best players in the world, and that will allow me to improve my game and to get my game to where I want to be. And even if that means competing against Dosari every day, if that means competing against Tex every day, that's fine. I'm fine with that. If I can compete in great conditions against them every week, I'm sure one day I will get to their level or I will be better. That's just how I am. And if not, then I'm not good enough. That's just the way I am. So hopefully, I would love for us to all progress at the same rate, at the same level, at the same time. But unfortunately, it's not possible. We don't have the same conditions. We don't have the same situations. And hopefully, somehow, we can all get there someday.
My goal with this episode was not to discourage anyone looking to try crack the big time as a professional esports player, but I did want to give a more accurate picture of what it actually takes, along with the very real challenges faced by those attempting to be the best in the world. Video games are unique in that they change. Unlike something like football, where the rules are the same and have been for years, games are privately owned. They adapt, they change, and sometimes they simply cease to exist anymore. I remember once being told a story about an esports champion who was practically undefeated at his title. The details of the story are super hazy, and I possibly could have picked them up from a bunch of different stories and mashed it all together, but whatever, bear with me. We had this incredible player. He dominated tournaments and claimed the prize pools. He chose to skip on school because the money he was making was allowing him to live a pretty great life, one of excess. And then the developers of his chosen game pulled support for the title. This meant there were no longer updates. The game itself lost a player base and brands slowly stopped sponsoring events. The player in question blew through his measly savings because he'd overspent and was now having to fund his lifestyle with no income coming in. A few years after the game's eventual demise, someone followed up on this champion, and they found him packing lettuce in a factory, his glory days behind him. It's a pretty miserable story, right? And again, it's not meant to dissuade esports competitors, but it does serve as a warning. This is not a guaranteed career path. No matter what the mainstream media will spew out at you, go in with your eyes open and always remember that there's still video games. It is meant to be fun to play them. Don't lose sight of that. You've been listening to Tech Girl Talk Season 2, a playlist original podcast series available on all the best podcast platforms, diving into topics around gaming and esports. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to review it in the app of your choosing and hit a follow or subscribe button or whatever it is that the app suggests you do. I'd not mind a sneaky share as well. If you want to chat more to me, I'm at TechGirlZA on Twitter and Instagram. Some of the past episodes this season include why no one is watching your esports broadcast and a look at gaming addiction with insight from leading industry professionals. If you haven't given them a listen yet, I'd suggest doing so.